So what is like Sunrise about? Like what's the movement about? And how did Ballard itself like become part of it?
Oh yeah. So the Sunrise Movement is a national grassroots youth-led organization that started in 2017. It's an organization that fights for economic, political, social justice. And yeah, so one thing that we are well known for is our very intense support for the Green New Deal. In terms of policy, that's sort of like our biggest target, but we also do a lot of work towards making sure to elect Green New Deal champions and more progressive leaders that don't take corporate PAC money into Congress, because Congress is very powerful sorry. And it's really important to make sure that we have people in power that have the interests of the people at heart, as opposed to the interests of large corporations that are doing well enough already and don't necessarily need any more support. And actually, so the Ballard Hub started because a girl named Emma, who goes to the Northwest School, she reached out to several of the people that are involved in the Hub now, and she told us a little about Sunrise in an email and was like, want to join? I can help you start a hub. So that's how Cameron, Helen, and I believe it was, got involved in Sunrise. And then from there we recruited a few more people, and Sheridan watched Queer Eye, the Queer Eye episode with Abby in it, and that's how she decided to get involved in Sunrise. But yeah, no, I mean, it was, our Ballard Hub would not have existed without Emma, so we owe that to her. Thank you, Emma.
So what is this art build for? Like what do you do for art build? Like, what do we do today?
Wow. I mean, we just made some signs, we made stencils. It took a really long time. We painted it a whole banner, one color. And
yeah, I think a large part of it is setting up for the stuff that we're going to do on Wednesday. So it's a lot of gathering supplies and making sure we've got signs are important, I think, for people to feel as a part of what we're doing. So we made a bunch of signs that we can distribute on Wednesday, and
Kind of like group bonding
yeah,
too.
I think it's definitely a group bonding activity for people to start to get to know each other, so they're a little bit more familiar, and get to know us in a less tense context for when they need to get a hold of us at the Wide Awake if they need.
Oh yeah, and what are we using these signs for on Wednesday?
well, I mean, we're going to yell at Frank Chop. We're going to basically say that we don't think he's doing enough to be president, and that we think, there's someone else who's a better candidate for him. Like, he's also been in his position for, like, way too long. Not way too long, but he's been in it for a long enough time and just has not done enough in the time that he's been in office. So we're basically just saying, like, look, we think you need to be doing more, telling him that, and that, we think there's a better candidate than him.
Our signs say Green New Deal or Wide Awake, and that's representative of like what we're trying to push. We're trying to push the Green New Deal into politicians' hands because really in general they're the ones who can make the big decisions. And Wide Awake is in reference to our action that we're going to be doing on Wednesday. So we're going to be showing up at a politician's house and waking them up at 6 a.m. So Wide Awake.
So what are your general thoughts and feelings for this Wednesday and the Wide Awake? Like, what are you excited for, worried about, anything like that?
I'm excited. I think it's our first, hub action. I'm excited to see all the people show up and get to know each other and collaborate. And I think it's going to be, if we do our jobs right, it'll be a good show of a bunch of different students coming together to fight one thing that I think we all care about, because it affects us all, especially young people. I think, general nerves are
performance anxiety.
Yeah, performance anxiety, also just what if nobody comes.
Yeah, it's a common theme from all of you guys saying we want people to actually participate and come
and,
to get more voices in there.
Yeah.
We want to make sure that, we do put a lot of work into making this and making these things happen, but it's all of our movement, it's all of our hub, and so we want to make sure people feel like they have space and that they can take up space.
I'm really excited. I think it will probably go really well. We have been preparing for this for like, it seems like months. Like we've had this kind of energy to like want to go out there, and I think that will carry on. I think we're all really excited. I think the only thing that we could like slightly worry about is like how many people show up. I'm really hoping that we can get a good crowd, so like hopefully the majority of our club members are able to attend. Something that's really exciting is Miss Makeup is going to be our police liaison. Hopefully we won't need that, so hopefully police won't show up. But if we do, we have everything planned out in case that happens. And I think worst case scenario is police show up and we have to leave peacefully.
Yeah, and anything else you just want to like mention about like the experience today, or just like any other comments you want to talk about in general? Pretty much that it.
Let's see.
I mean, I think we're all learning. This is like a new experience for everyone. Like this is like all new for, like we just started this year. This is a brand new hub at Ballard High School. So I mean, hopefully things will start going smoother later. But we're just trying to get a feel for like how these things run, and hopefully we will get a hang of it and we can keep doing these successfully. I mean,
It's like a learning curve.
Yeah.
It's a learning curve for sure.
This is the first thing that popped in my head, but wear heavier clothing. Like wear jackets,
Yeah.
wear hats.
It's Seattle winter now. Like
Yeah.
fall doesn't exist.
It really hit hard today, and gloves were the move, except for I didn't have it for the majority of the time. I don't know.
We were out here though. Like,
Yeah.
We were working hard.
We're out here. We out here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that this is really important work to be doing. I think that we as youth have a moral responsibility to make sure that the people that are currently in power are doing things that are good for all of us. And I think that doing this sort of work through Sunrise is a really great way to help young people get involved. There's so many different opportunities and different ways that you can make some sort of impact, whether it be through filmmaking or getting out the vote in some other way, by writing postcards or something like that, organizing actions, creating a hub, telling more people about Sunrise and like what we're doing and the movement. I think there's, depending on different people's comfort level and time allotments that they're able to put towards this work, I think that Sunrise has a place for everyone.
Oh wow. Oh, it is pitch black outside. I mean, I've gotten up this early for swim practice before, but that was an indoor heated pool, and this is walking around outside. Okay, let's just go and do this.
Oh my god. Oh, okay, we're live. Okay, hold on. I got it. Here, we're live. I know we're live.
We're going to practice making some noise. Noise maker, use it right now.
Oh yeah. Oh, you do voice lessons. Nice. That's fun. Oh my god, wait. Today.
I'm excited for the Olympiad. It's on your left side. Oh my god. Okay.
Oh, you can see the city. Kind of. Do you like seeing these buildings? No, I don't. Well, you can kind of see them. You hear the maracas.
You can't see. You can't see anything. It's so dark. It's so fun. Yes, I'm glad we're here. We would have sucked at 4 though. What? We would have sucked at 4. We would have to wake up at 3:30. Is this it? Huh?
Who said there has some drinks?
No racist police! No justice, no sleep! 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 No racist police! Wide awake! Wide awake! Wide awake! Wide awake!
That's not here everywhere, right? First thing we're going to do here today is we're going to ground ourselves. We're going to acknowledge the land that we stand on. This is occupied Duwamish territory, the land of the Coast Salish people, that they are still here. And if you can do anything about it, go to realrentduwamish.com when you go home and pay your rent, because we are so lucky to live here. And the indigenous people that live here are the ones that are fighting now, have been fighting before, and will be fighting in the future. And any solution towards climate justice has to involve indigenous people at the table, at the front of the table, at every meeting about climate justice, right? The second thing we're going to acknowledge. This week, given the news from DC, things are getting a little scary. And we want to take a second to acknowledge the fact that climate justice means secure food, secure clean air for everyone, like we just breathed, and a right to say that nobody can say anything about your body without your fucking permission. And that climate justice means body sovereignty for all people. All right, now why are we here? Well, this event is called Wide Awake, but this is not new, and this is not just a protest, right? This has its roots all the way back in abolition, when a group of young people just like us stood outside a politician's house and became, quote, a haunting for local politicians who had become complicit in the act of slavery. Okay. In the same way, Frank Chop has become complicit in the issues that face young people today, and we will not stand for it anymore. Sunrisers have been doing this all throughout the summer and all this fall, going to politicians' house and telling them what is right and what they need to stand for. A lot of the time, in other states and in other cities, we hear the responses, oh, you're too young. You can't see the full picture. You can't see everything that we see. You don't understand the full issue. I think some of us have probably felt that here as well. Sorry, it's hard to breathe with the mask a little bit. But in Seattle, I think we face something a little different. Tell me if this sounds a little bit familiar. Back last year, when the Amazon rainforest was, this year when the Amazon rainforest was burning, young people all over the planet said, we need to do something about this. We came up and we said, we're not going to stand for this anymore. And they told us that we are the future. They told us that we are tomorrow's leaders. And they told us that we are brave. And then they did nothing. They did nothing. Time and time again, they went back to business as usual. They smiled at us and said that we are powerful while they destroy the world around us because they still believe that you do not have a voice if you do not have a vote. Make some noise. Well, if Frank Chop somehow thinks that he's going to win this election, let's give him a message with our voice. Frank Chop, you say that Washington State is not ready for the progressive ideas of Seattle, that we are too far in the future. I say, wake up, do your job. You say that Washington State, it's too hard to pass these progressive taxes on the literal wealthiest people that live in the United States, many of whom are located in Seattle and Washington. You say it's too hard to pass that through. In your 25-year tenure, you say that it's too hard to tax Amazon, Bezos, Gates. I say, wake up, do your job. You say you are so proud to not take any money from fossil fuel companies, and then you take more money from the cops than any other politician running for that type of seat. I say, wake up, do your job. You say that we need to reform the police and listen to people of color, especially black communities and indigenous people. But when those people tell you time and time again, it's time to divest those funds and put them into our communities, you say, no. I say, wake up, do your job. Do your job, Frank Chop, or we will take that job from you, I promise. Wake up, do your job. 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 Wake up.
Say his name. George Floyd. 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 Say your name. Charlene Lyles. 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 Say your name.
Manuel Ellis, say his name.
Manuel Ellis. Say his name. Manuel Ellis. Say his name. Manuel Ellis. Say his name. Manuel Ellis. Say his name. Manuel Ellis. Say his name.
What is the wide awake? Just like overall, like how would you like describe it to someone?
So the wide awake is basically like an action. So I don't know, in a nutshell, basically it's we can't sleep because we are up thinking about the state of the world. And so the point of it is to basically go to a politician's house and ask them and like wake them up because we can't sleep, so why should they get to sleep? And ask them to like really make some bigger steps toward change and like fixing these problems. So we chose Frank Chalk, obviously. So we were here today, and you know we support his opponent, Sheree, and you know she's awesome. She stands for the people, and she sorry. They stand for the people, and they're just like one of the best. I don't know. I really like all of their.
They're more progressive.
They're way more progressive. I mean, Frank Chalk kind of makes a lot of
empty statements, I guess.
Yeah, empty statements, and he's been in office for a really long time, and he really hasn't made that much change. His steps to really fix things just don't really feel adequate or like at all.
Or enough.
Yeah, they don't feel like enough. It's just, so we were just kind of fed up, and so we found his house and we came here, and we tracked him down.
Chris, we're sure it's his house.
Huh?
We're sure it's his house because he never showed up.
Well, yeah, we're not sure it's his house. His name was on the deeds of the property records, so we're assuming it's his house.
We never saw him though.
We never saw him. Yeah, we might have.
The Wide Awake is an event where you go to a political leader's house, in this case Frank Chalk, and you wake them up. You encourage them to take action by disrupting their sleep, because if we don't have a successful future, then they don't deserve to sleep right now.
Show like, okay, this is what this is really fucking about, like this is what you need to be aware of, this is what needs to change, and like if we're up all night, if we're not resting, if we're worrying about this stuff, why should you get to sleep and not do much about it?
So the action that we did today, it's part of a greater thing that's going on within the Sunrise Movement as a whole. So they had a program where they helped give a bunch of different hubs, helped start up a lot of hubs, and then give existing hubs like ours resources to create this sort of action. So these wide awake actions are relatively easy to replicate, and since they're happening all throughout the country, the idea is that we sort of show this stream of cohesive young people that are fighting for the same message. And yeah, so it's an action that is inspired by tactics used by young people in the abolitionist movement during the 1800s, and it was quite effective. You know, slavery does not exist right now, which is fabulous. And yeah, so basically what they did was similar to what we did. They, like us, went to politicians' houses that were disappointing them, and that included people that were in their own party, which is something that isn't super common. You don't see a lot of people like Democrats attacking Democrats, Republicans attacking Republicans, but we think that when Democrats are not stepping up and doing what they need to do, we need to call them out for it. So yeah, that's what we did, and that's why we targeted Frank Chalk, who is, you know, for America's standards, relatively liberal, but he takes a lot of money from the SPD, and he doesn't support the Green New Deal, so he's really not doing enough to address the crises that we face.
Like, what issue specifically are we protesting against, or like what did you get, like what the issue was from what you're protesting about?
Well, a big thing is the Green New Deal, and so like supporting that. And then also we incorporate other things, so like the indigenous land that we're on, fighting for indigenous people, and then also Black Lives Matter, and just equality between races and sex and gender, and stuff like that.
What issues specifically are we protesting against?
So specifically, we know that Frank Chalk has taken more pot money than the other people he's running against. So, you know, not supporting Black Lives Matter, that's like a really big one, and a lot of social justice issues, also environmental justice issues, and you know, he does not endorse the Green New Deal, and he's never said he has, which to us is a big problem. So as Sunrise Movement, we really push the Green New Deal, and we were here just to like tell him like there is a plan, and it's so obvious, and it's right in front of you. Like, these are clear steps and measures that we have to take to, you know, be able to stay alive and to like have a world in the next like 50 years, right? So that's what we were doing. Basically, those are the two main issues: is Black Lives Matter and environmental justice, so social justice and environmental justice. But yeah.
Our two main issues right now are getting Frank Chop to endorse the Green New Deal and to fund the police by at least 50%.
I think that this wide awake for me at least is a combination of just everything that we are facing, from the climate crisis to racial and economic inequality, and yeah, so I think that it involves not only like these ideas of awful things that are happening to us right now. We're not just like mindlessly shouting into the void of like, this is terrible, we don't like it. That's part of what we do, but we also are pushing this fabulous Green New Deal. But yeah, so we're pushing the Green New Deal, which we believe is a very viable solution to all of these problems. So we're not just complaining about something, we're complaining and then telling him what to do about it.
Yeah, complaining about something that will greatly impact all of our futures, especially ours, because we're gonna have to be the ones to like deal with it. Like that's like the word, that's the way that I would say it.
Frank Chop is not an incredibly young guy. Like he's pretty old. And when things get really bad in the coming decades, it is not super likely that
he's gonna be
live
dead.
to see it. Yeah, but we will be. So, which is it's my sneaking suspicion that that is one of the reasons that he's not more progressive, because he doesn't feel a need to for his own sake, but he needs to for our sake. Or he can step out of the way. His choice.
Do things for the people and not just for his own benefit.
Absolutely. And also having courage. A lot of the reasons that, I think a big reason that the Democratic establishment is not really taking the sort of actions they need to take is because they're really scared of being too radical and then having it fail at all. So they make too many compromises to the point where it's not even effective, and you're not doing enough to address what needs to be addressed. And I think that we as young people, we don't have that same fear that the Democratic establishment does, you know, in like Reagan's win in the 80s sort of thing. So yeah, we are not afraid to be more radical, but not really radical compared to like Scandinavian countries, and considering the enormity of what we face.
Yeah, I would say like radical for like at the political climate, at least for like what our like where our country is at the moment, like who has the power and like who is like trying to gain more power.
Well,
I would definitely say like
America
I would say it's
is
radical that way.
America's liberals are conservative
Compared to other countries, yeah.
Yeah.
Like not like the most like radical people, but just like those who would describe themselves as liberal are like the normal in a lot of other countries.
Yeah.
So why do you think it's important for people our age, like teens or younger people, to be politically active by going to protests like these? Or at least knowing like what the issues are and like the overall impact?
Well, you always hear, you know, our generation is the next generation, we're the next leaders, it's our world, and that's true. And a lot of adults don't care about that, or they pretend they do and don't take action. So we have to take things into our own hands and stand up for what's ours.
I think it's important for people our age to be a part of this and be involved, because we are the next generation. It's really, yeah, there are millennials and there's other generations, but if we stay passionate about this and we start working on it early and we try and change it now, we're gonna have more of a chance than ever before. And I think it's also important to like, this is our world, and like it's up to us to like really do a lot for it. And so if we're going to be changing it and helping and fixing and doing what we can, we should know what's going on as well.
So, I mean, you have a lot of people who get their news off of like Instagram or Facebook, and it's literally the most frustrating thing because they keep saying, you know, they might really believe something, and they might believe something that, you know, we all believe, but they don't really have anything to back it up. Like, you talk to them and they just kind of have empty-minded opinions. And I think educating yourself and learning about why things are the way they are, historically, how they've come to be, is like really, really important for us to understand, you know, how we got there and, you know, why we're in this position and how we can, you know, work to not be there later. So, you know, for us, and like, we are the young, like, we're the next generation. We're going to be taking over basically the world eventually, because everybody else is going to retire or pass away. So, you know, we have to make sure that we know what we're talking about and that we can fix these issues. And so, you know, a lot of us can't vote. I don't think many of us are 18.
I mean, I voted yesterday.
Okay.
But I'm like the only one.
I'm not 18. I can't vote. I wish I could fucking vote.
I think I'm the only one here is the one that I'm pretty sure.
You might be the only 18-year-old. But yeah, so this is like one of the biggest ways that we can make an actual impact. If I mean, I don't know. If I could vote, obviously I would still be here because this is still a big deal.
To get other young people to do it?
Yeah, we're influencing other people's opinions potentially and like making them look at the truth and like who do they really want to vote for? Who do they want to support? Because I mean, Frank Chop might be the obvious option because he's been in office the longest. He might have the most experience, but Sheree, you know, they are also very, very qualified, and we should make sure that people understand that there is more than just one option. Like,
it's not just like the default, like things can change.
Yeah, things can change. We do not need to just pick the person who's always been there, you know?
That doesn't mean that they're the best at all.
Yeah. I think that a lot of young people have the idea that, you know, because I can't vote, like, what's the point? And, you know, like, even if they can vote, like, what's the point in voting? Like, my vote will get lost among everything. Or, you know, like, politics doesn't really affect me. Like, I don't really care for politics. But really, I mean, government affects all of us. The way
that's like the point of government.
Affects all of us. And I think that especially us as people that are in places that are in positions of privilege, we have a responsibility to put time and put effort into these sort of reforms that will be supporting people that are not able to or like physically don't have the time to because they're struggling to put food on the table and don't have time to get involved in activism. And yeah, also, you know, we as young people have a certain moral authority, and I think that it's really important that we use that when we come together in hordes and tell everyone what we need and what is necessary. People listen. It's a very powerful statement, and I think that it's tremendously underutilized by young people.
How do you feel like the mass amount of people like grouping together like impacted like the effect of the protest versus like a couple people like way smaller than like what we had today?
I think a mass amount of people would definitely help because it shows how powerful the movement is and how many people are actually committed to this and care about it. If it's only a couple people or even as many as we have today, it's definitely not as powerful as say if you see hundreds of thousands of people in the street marching, and that is just like so powerful physically and emotionally, and like you can just feel it in the air. It's really incredible, and it shows that it's like, oh, this isn't just a small movement of like say high schoolers who care about this. This is actually like a fucking big thing, and it's important for everybody to be here, and it's much more than just that.
Okay, so like, since I know that getting people to show up and like people that are outside of Sunrise, like that was an issue, like we all like kind of scrambled and like got a lot of people to like post things. And like, how do you feel about like the turnout today that came? And, like, did it defy like your expectations, or like did it meet it, or like somewhere in between?
Oh my god, I was so surprised when I saw how many people showed up. I was talking to Sheridan in the car. I was like, I think that we might have like 4 or 5 people show up in addition to the leaders or like the people that planned it. But yeah, no, I was so pleasantly surprised by how many people showed up. And yeah, I mean, I think that in recruiting, I was garbage about recruiting. I was focused on other aspects of planning, unfortunately. Well, you know, debatable. But yeah, no, I definitely did not pull my weight in recruiting, and I think I'm so happy and proud of everyone and thankful for everyone that was in recruiting that made this such a smashing success in terms of the amount of people that came.
It was phenomenal. I thought there was going to be like 10 people, including the 5 leaders. That's what I told my mom. But you know, there's like 25 people, which is super exciting. We all reached out to a lot of people. I DM'd like 50 people, so that clearly helped.
The ratio was pretty good with the ones that you DM'd, right?
Yeah.
What are some things in planning the event? I know you kind of mentioned that a little bit, that you would change, like you, like what you like kind of like had your role for. Like, how would you like change that? Like, what are some things that you like that you think went smoothly, that you like hoped that it would and actually, like, again, met your expectations?
Yeah, I think that there were some things that sort of once we arrived here and started getting things started, I definitely started to improvise, like the whole, when we were in the field, like practicing songs and then dividing up things that some people were on excess, and figuring out, you know, who had what and all of that. That was not something that was at all written in the plan. We sort of figured that we would just come to this field, hype people up, and then go. But yeah, I guess we ended
There
up
was more
also,
to do.
doing that stuff and like making sure everyone had at least had some sort of pass through the songs. I think that was something that definitely could have been written into the plan so that we didn't start off a bit late. But no, I think that part was relatively successful. I dearly wish that I brought a microphone or like a megaphone or something, because my voice is going to die after this. I yelled at people so much, I screamed so many things. But yeah, no, I think that otherwise it was pretty successful. We, you know, planning team, shout out to Izzy and Kateri, were really fantastic about making sure that we had a plan for everything. Gavin prepared a fantastic action speech. And, you know, yeah, everyone else in their roles did everything as they were supposed to happen. And I was surprised that we didn't run into any other sort of last minute tragedy that we needed to address.
I mean, the people that came that weren't part of Sunrise, like, you're just saying, like, just go with whatever's happening, and they just, like, ended up doing that. They're, like, I wouldn't say, like, compliant, but they were just, like, going with the flow, kind of, like, realizing, like, this is new for us, too. Like, we're, yeah.
Definitely, yeah, this was all of our first time planning any sort of action. So,
And even going to it and, like, leading it.
yeah.
I think we did a really good job planning it out. Our scheduling team was very specific. Woo woo. I think it's not bad necessarily, but it'd be good to stay a little more on track once we get there, just so it's still dark out, but that's something that's easily fixable.
So I think spamming people honestly is very helpful. We didn't really, I don't really know if we really got there quick enough initially, but I think that if we had started a little bit sooner and really just spammed people and like said like, hey, this is what's happening, this is where it is, hey, again, this is what's happening, you should come, please join us, over and over again, then maybe they might be forced to come. I do think we had a really good turnout. It was really exciting. I was not expecting that many people to come, but I think that was the outcome of us spamming people initially. So yeah, I think really just more of that, and maybe, you know, this is the first time we've ever done any of this, so I think now we have a sort of general idea of how things like this might go. So I think we might have definitely a better structure going forward of like how we're gonna corral people and get people, you know, to learn the songs and stuff like that. So
It's just, like, better prepare people, maybe?
yeah, better prepare people, really push out those like resources that we have for them to learn songs and where things are. Like obviously we actually ended up in Shoreline this morning on accident because we went to the wrong park, and we even planned the event, so it can happen, you know. So it's just making sure that people know exactly what's happening and where they're going. But yeah.
Or at least have, like, one person for sure that, like, passes the word on to people, so it's interconnected and stuff like. So what do you think was the impact of this protest, like, on the people that came here that aren't, like, a part of Sunrise, or, like, just, like, in general, people that might have seen us, like, the cars that were honking, like, just overall, like, what do you think the impact was?
I think for the people that came and joined us, they're getting a taste of what Sunrise actually does. Aside from the meetings where we're like, oh, we're just gonna talk about climate change. Like, that's really important, but it's kind of boring. So it's more important to take action and actually get a taste of it. And as for people like Frank Chop's neighbors, they're gonna be really annoyed. So hopefully they talk to him and say, hey, you gotta do something about this. I do not want these people coming by my house again.
Oh yeah, and like what was the thing about, like, the people across the street that were, like, what was that about? Like, what did they say?
I'm not totally sure. I didn't get a chance to talk to Miss Maycutt, who went and talked to them. But I don't think they were totally supportive of being woken up.
Yeah, like, I think that they said, like, protesters go home.
Yeah, something
and then, like, something
that.
Trump related.
It was very confusing.
Because I feel like it was clear what we were protesting against, but
Or maybe they really like Frank Chop, and
I mean, maybe like because it's like he's our neighbor.
right.
They have like a bias for that.
Yeah, I'm not totally sure.
My neighbors, I'm guessing they were probably just pissed off.
Yeah.
And I don't blame them, to be fair, waking up, but I think for people driving by or maybe turning their cars around, they're seeing like, okay, well, these people are doing this for a reason. They're trying to help. And I'm sure that they felt, I mean, some people were honking, some people were saying, like, good job, some people were also saying, shut up. So I think there was mixed reactions, but
Maybe some people were moved and others were just like,
Yeah.
oh, these young teens, like what we were trying to like fight
yeah,
against.
some people understood our cause and then some didn't fully agree. And so it's just really based on their views and like how they actually feel about the subject or about, say, teens marching through the streets chanting.
I think the impact was, pretty good. I think we got a lot of people's attention, especially on the busy road. We had cars honking at us, and that was pretty cool to like hear that support. Like, I don't know, that was pretty cool. You know, we did have some people yell at us, but that's okay. You know,
We expected that.
I think one person maybe yelled at us. Yeah, one or two. It was like, I don't know. I really don't know. But you know, I think just the support that we got, like people here, I think we definitely have a more consistent group after this. It's definitely, if not like a political like statement, and I think it was, but I think it might just be more of like a team building bonding thing in the end, which is totally fine because now we have more people to go do these actions with later. So yeah.
What do you think was the overall impact of this protest on like the different kinds of people that like happened to see it, or like people that came again, like they weren't part of Sunrise?
Yeah, I think that it did have a relatively decent-ish amount of impact, you know, on people that heard us as we were going by, people that honked at us, Frank Chop turning off his lights. That was kind of exciting. But yeah, I think that for me, at least looking back, I feel like the biggest thing that we got out of this action was the energy and the power that we felt in it. You know, even though in some respects it was technically like a bit of a failure in that, you know, like publications didn't come, and
the police
Frank
didn't
Chop
come.
didn't come out, and all of that. But I think that it was a really strong first action in terms of the energy and the power, like I mentioned, that people felt when they were there. And I think that that's really important in terms of how that sort of community feeling, that energy is really, it's a cornerstone of creating any sort of movement. And I think that is potentially one of our biggest takeaways of helping get people excited to be involved in action, so that in the future when we plan one that's larger and we're able to better prepare for it and learn from our mistakes, it'll have a greater impact that is more external and will, you know, maybe get shared in the news, or like next time Frank Chop will come out and talk to us or something like that.
Any other comments or like thoughts on this Wide Awake in general, just like things you want to mention or talk about or to like be recorded, just anything else?
Let's see. I'm really glad that so many people came. The donuts were a great idea. Great way to incentivize people.
Do that again.
Yes, I will do that again for sure. I really appreciate Miss Maycup for all her help. And she brought coffee and she was very excited.
Very supportive.
Yes, it means a lot to me, and I'm sure it means a lot to everyone else.
I think it was really powerful, and I think it's important to get as many people as we can to be a part of it.
I'm just like very proud of everyone that showed up. I'm really excited that so many people ended up coming. I don't know if everyone that came actually like RSVP'd or like responded to one of us and said that they were going to come. But yeah, I mean, I guess I just hope that they will tell their friends what a fabulous time they had. And we'll have a good turnout at our next hub meeting and an even better turnout at our next action. I don't know, I'm just really excited to continue this journey, you know. It's so fun planning this stuff, and so fun being here and actually executing it and seeing it come through. So I really hope that like this video might reach other people and inspire them to come join, and you know, also experience actions like this or come plan them. It's so fun. But yeah, I don't know. Thank you for taking
Thank you.
videos. It's really appreciate it. But yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, guys. Any last remarks? Any last anything really? Last words, takeaways? Go ahead.
Just really proud of us. I think like it just felt really inspiring to see how many people actually showed up and how many people were there to support like everything that we stand behind. I mean, we were all really new to Sunrise and it was our first like major event, and we hadn't like we were just like in the baby stages of like recruitment and everything. Like our hub hadn't really even been like totally formed. But just seeing that like everybody was there like as a hub. Like we were there and it was like, okay, now we have a group, and it felt like really, I don't know, it just felt really empowering and exciting.
I think something that was a big lesson to me was that us as organizers, we put in a lot of effort beforehand, but when you get there, it's not about you. It's about the group, and it's about everyone there is autonomous. Everyone there chose to be there. And so going with the will of the group is important, and you can't center yourself as an organizer. And that is necessary for sustained impact in this movement, so that people feel like they want to take control of what they're talking about.
Yeah, no, I think that our action was really great. And I think that, we were very lucky in that we were, Sydney is documenting this, and there is like, beyond just the memories that we have, like there is some sort of greater impact that hopefully it is having. Even though, press didn't show up, even though technically like it could have been bigger, I think in any action that you have, there is something that is good, that is positive, that is contributing to the movement that comes out of it. Even if you might feel like your action was a failure, or any future actions that you have didn't pan out the way that you wanted it to, there is something good that comes out of it. Whether it is you growing as an organizer, or other people being inspired, or other people seeing that you had this really cool action and feeling a fear of missing out, and like maybe they come to your next action. There's always going to be some small thing that comes out of your action that is positively contributing to the greater goal of collective liberation. And every so often there are actions that like hit the jackpot and get a lot of media attention and press coverage, and has like the sort of objective greater impact that all actions sort of seek out. But I think it's really important not to get discouraged if you don't have that sort of jackpot action, and appreciate what your action was, regardless of how small or insignificant it might feel. There is something good that is good and significant that is coming out of it.
I think it can be easy to pass off a small action like this as invaluable, but at some point you sort of have to do something. And it can be easy to live as a pessimist and sort of say, well, the world sucks, so what am I going to do about it? Or the common like argument like, oh, it's just 10 companies. I have no individual impact in this. I have no say. But if you don't take that point and work with it and use it as like an inspiration to do something about those companies, and you don't realize your power as an individual, as a member of a group, to influence something bigger than yourself, then it's less of real intelligent realism and more of an excuse to say, I don't need to act because the world's going to suck anyway. And I lived a bit of my life feeling that way. And I think movements like this and actions like this, no matter how small, no matter the impact, tell you that realistic optimism is the only way to move anywhere forward, any direction forward. And that has to come from a group, and it has to come from small things becoming bigger things. And we do that together.